everyone. Welcome to this edition of KOIN Conversations, airing right here on KOIN Plus every day at 3:30. I have a guest with me today that needs no introduction, Jeff.
Yeah.
One and only Jeff Gianola.
It's great to be here with you, Mia. This is fun, isn't it, in
Yeah,
this
it is.
KOIN Plus studio?
Yeah, it's just like an intimate setting.
Yeah,
and
it's
just
really
two
nice. I like
pals
this.
Chatting it up. As everyone watching knows, Jeff announced his retirement, and we are all very sad about it, but he's not going away just yet, right, Jeff?
No, I'm here for a few more months, sharing stories I've done over these last 40-plus years.
That's right. Jeff's Journal is what the franchise is called. We are very excited about it. And he has them saved on this special file on our news drive. And I took the liberty of kind of going through some of his stories. And this one, this bus ride across America. Oh, it really, it left me watery-eyed, the nostalgia of it all. I think I was only 7 at the time. This aired in 2000, but even just seeing the interior on the bus seats and kind of remembering things from my childhood, it really was just, it was a time warp.
It was the year 2000, and I thought, you know, we're going to the new century, gauging the country. I thought, what about a Greyhound bus trip across the country? And the longest continuous Greyhound bus trip, if you were to stay on the bus, is Seattle all the way to Miami. So I said, well, let's catch that bus in Portland. Now, we won't stay on for the entire 3 days because we want to get off and see the people of America and stuff. So that's what we did. But we did eventually get down to Gainesville, Florida. But it was quite an adventure.
Yeah, it was. It's a remarkable story. It's almost an hour and a half in time. Over 3,500 miles traveled through 19 states. First and foremost, how were the bathrooms on the bus?
Not good.
Not good. I know.
No, I would always just hold it till we got to some kind of restaurant or something like that. Yeah, not good.
Right. The opening line of this story, it says, when you are 1,000 miles from home, you're really not far at all. Is that something you really took away from this trip?
I did, and you know where the inspiration came from that? We were way out in the middle of Nebraska, and all of a sudden I looked in this field and I thought it was a tombstone, and what it was a marker kind of covered with weeds for the Oregon Trail, marking the Oregon Trail, and it said how many miles to Oregon. I thought, God, you can be so far away from home, but you're really not that far when I saw that, and I thought that would make a great comment for the great theme for the bus trip across America.
Yeah, it fit perfectly. And this story has so much heart too. And you know, there's that saying, home is where the heart is.
Yeah.
And it really does just sting you in the heart. And I want to bring up the Galen was his name, right? In Kearney, Nebraska, selling bus tickets to the living and headstones to the dead.
So
also got a haircut there.
Well, you know, we didn't stay on the bus for the entire 3 days, but we get to Kearney, Nebraska, and that's where we first got off the bus. And I have to give kudos to our cameraman, Brian Watkins, who still works here at KOIN after all these years. We're very close. And a guy named Galen ran this tiny little bus depot, but inside the bus depot, he cut hair and he sold tombstones. And I thought, this is just fascinating. But he went on to tell me, but my favorite story with him, he's cutting my hair, and I go, Galen, what's the most unusual thing, you know, passenger or anything you had to ship Greyhound? He goes, well, there was a guy from California, and he called me up and he said, I need to ship my ass back here to California. And I'm like, what? And he goes, well, that feller dealt in fiberglass animals, and he had a fiberglass donkey he was trying to get from Nebraska back to California. So that's kind of that humor of the Midwest.
Yeah.
And he was ready. I let him cut my hair, and I got to tell you, I have the world's worst hair. He gave me a great haircut, and as we were sitting, he was telling me stories of the Greyhound, and it wasn't so much about, the beauty of the country as you travel across. This story was more about the people you meet. And he was the first real character we met in Kearney, Nebraska.
That's right. And you meet so many people on this bus ride. And the bus driver said something is there are either people on the bus are either running from something
Yes.
or going to something. And that was really the case for a lot of the characters that you met on the bus. There was Stephanie. Do you remember her, the Army member on crutches?
Yes.
Sent home because of a stress
God,
fracture.
me, I had forgotten about that until you brought it up. I remember that. I remember there was a stripper when we were
Yes.
down south, and she was just the nicest person. I met a blind man on the bus who traveled Greyhound all the time. But you're right. People were either going from something or going to something, and some people were just. It was a new beginning for them. They were either starting a new job or they were going somewhere with a chance to start over. And you met a lot of people like that on the Greyhound.
Yeah, I was so moved. It was a brief conversation, but you spoke with another woman from Portland, actually, headed to Indiana for Bible school.
Yes.
And
And
she
I think
was touched.
I think that was pretty quickly when we left Portland. I think I started talking to her maybe in Idaho, but she was just so full of hope.
Yeah.
This was going to change her life and going to Bible school. And, let's face it, the people on the Greyhound, that's not the most comfortable way to travel. They sell it as, see American stuff, but that's what these people could afford. And so a lot of these people were really looking to start a new life somewhere, or new beginning,
Yeah, that's right. There was a mother with children on the bus.
Yes.
Is there a place that you stopped, a town that you stopped at that maybe you didn't expect to like as much as you did?
Yeah, Carthage, Missouri.
Oh,
It's
wow.
full with history, and I stopped at the bus depot there. Remember, it's not a lot of these bus depots aren't dedicated bus depots. They're a bus depot in a business like Galen in Nebraska. He sold tombstones and haircuts. In Carthage, Missouri, it was a donut shop run by a woman named Lorene, and it was kind of like Andy of Mayberry. That's where all the guys met in the morning, drinking coffee. And I remember sitting down with them. They welcomed me in their group. And I started joking. I said, this must be where all the Democrats meet in the morning. And they all started laughing, and we had a talk. And I wonder, Mia, when I look back, I say to myself, could I have had that same conversation now that I did almost 26 years ago with them, because of how the mood is in the country now?
I know.
Everyone's angry about things. We were laughing, we were talking about politics, and it was the greatest morning just talking to those guys before we had to hop on the bus and continue. But I really think the mood of the country then was so different than it is now. It really is.
They definitely carried a different disposition, and I was watching it thinking too, and they were older guys, right? And I was thinking,
Yes.
man, I wonder how many of them are still around.
No, I don't think most of them are, because that was 26 years ago. And I remember I was just starting my family. We had two little boys, and those little boys one of them's married. Life goes on. It is a snapshot of what things were like in 2000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such an interesting part of this story too, because since I've been an adult able to vote, there really has been such a polarizing environment around politics.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to look back in 2000. Again, I'm 7 years old at the time, not to date you, Jeff.
Yeah.
But I saw that and thought to myself, I'm like, wow, people used to be able to joke about these kind of things and converse.
Yeah, we were just talking. Imagine now if I had said, hey, this must be where all the Democrats, I'm sure, there would have been some ugly things that came out, and it would have been about that. We're so radical now, either on the left or the right. This was just a great group of people talking, and they were joking with one guy, and they were poking fun at something else. And we talked about, their local economy and what they were. Anyway, it was just, I would hope that we could have that same conversation now. I kind of doubt it. I think
doubt
there's
it
just
too.
you said it. It's too polarizing.
Exactly. It was so crazy to see how different things, how much can change in 25 years.
Yes.
You also stopped in Graceland in Memphis, Tennessee.
You know what? That was something. We only had a short time, and Brian, my photographer, said, we got to go to Graceland. I said, yeah. So we get there and we look, and you know what Graceland, it reminds me of outside Memphis. I said, this kind of reminds me of Sandy Boulevard. There's businesses and stuff, and then all of a sudden there's this mansion, and that's Graceland. And it's like, wow. And so we go over there. But these women who I guess look to me like they're in their 50s and 60s. I'm talking to them outside, and they are just in awe. Oh my God, this is where Elvis,
Yeah.
But you think they were young then? I mean, to them, this was like going to the music mecca. This was their guy, and it was just like, I mean, they were just almost in tears as I talked with them. Like, I can't believe I'm here. They were looking. We didn't have a chance to go inside Graceland because of the bus, but it was something just to see the people that Graceland attracts, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I felt that watching this. And I told you after I saw the piece that I kind of left a little bit teary-eyed because you think a lot of the older people in this story aren't even around anymore.
Yeah.
And then even the younger people, everyone, everyone's gotten older. And it's such a, like you were talking about that girl in front of Graceland, that she's an older woman, but the way she's talking about Elvis, she lights up like, someone my age talking about, let's say, Justin Bieber. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And,
She kind of gets all giddy.
Uh-huh.
I love that part of the story. Your most memorable part, though, you said this in the story, that this spot will never leave your memory.
No.
Mount Olive, Mississippi, which I'd never heard of until I watched this story.
Remember, nothing on this trip is planned.
Yeah.
We just went.
Wow.
And everything, nothing's planned. We just kind of go, we get off where we went. We get to this. Well, let me tell you, first of all, the bus trip is always interesting, but once we start heading down into the Deep South, it is absolutely fascinating. I mean, going through the cotton fields of Mississippi, going through the small towns, seeing the people. We get to this small town in Mississippi called Mount Olive. And once again, there's a little bus depot there. And I think it was a little store too, but it was mainly dedicated bus depot. And there's a young girl there selling bus tickets, and I realize, I'm thinking at first she's Amish because she's got that. They're a very strict cult of German Baptists, but they live like the Amish. No electricity, and you think, well, what is she doing running a bus depot? Well, that sect, like the Amish, you can't, you have to go by horse and buggy, you have to go, but for some reason, it's okay to travel by bus. So she not only sold local bus tickets, she advertised in a magazine that went to that religion, that German sect, and people from that sect from all over the country trusted her, and she got the commissions on those bus tickets for all these people from across the country. So she made quite a living. She had 7 sisters, and they lived 10 miles away on a farm, same thing. And she insisted, we were there on that we stay with her family. And so sure enough, we were there about an hour, and around 5 o'clock, a horse and buggy pulled up, and her father, who had the beard, he welcomed us. We went back to their place, horse and buggy, candlelight. There was this big one. They made furniture at this farm as well. So she sold bus tickets, contributing to the family. They made furniture. We sat down in this, it was kind of like a big metal building. It's where they made furniture, and they had a big dinner table. And it was just us and all the seven daughters. And they served us a meal that was wonderful, and then tucked us in bed with handmade quilts, with candles. And it almost brought tears to my eyes when I was there. It was like something. And the next morning, we got up at 4, we hitched the horse. They took us back into town, and as we passed this one farm, the father told me, Mr. Deal told me, that's where my son lives. I don't talk to him anymore. He adopted the modern ways. So he did have a son. He had these daughters, but he did have a son. And I thought, that's sad, that religion got in the way of that. But that's how strongly they believe. But he adopted the modern ways. He was cut off.
Wow.
And so.
And dare I say that daughter Martha, the one we were talking about that was selling those bus tickets and she made those quilts, she was obviously living that lifestyle as well, but you could see that there was this desire for knowledge from her to know more. She was business savvy with selling those tickets.
The bus depot was next to the little library, and she would spend her lunch hour in the library. And this was forbidden, but she told me she would get on the computer, the internet, and she was just fascinated with that. And she wasn't, you're not supposed to use those devices if you're that sect. And she, as we left, she handed me a little note and said, can you message me? Can you tell me? She wanted almost like a pen pal, over the internet. And I think I did that for a few months. And, gave her some interesting information, and then it kind of dropped out. Interestingly, I just looked that up, and she's still running the bus depot.
Wow.
But, you know, she's not that young girl I remember,
Yeah.
and I'm not that younger guy either. But
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
but,
that was just a touching part of this story for me too. I love that part.
But
And-
I think you're right. I think she had this desire to kind of break out of that if she could, you know?
Yeah, and it makes me, you know, I know that she obviously, if she's still there, that means she stayed close with the family, which
Yeah.
is good. But I also, it is a little bit sad, right? Because you
Yeah.
see there's just this ache for something more from her. But we certainly, you know, I certainly hope that everyone that was featured in this story, at least the younger people, are still around and happy. I want to talk about Tallahassee, Florida. This was, I was not expecting you to go to a college football game on this trip. You were quite the busy
Well,
guy. And you
that's-
were on the field.
Well, okay. So I thought to myself, you know, it was a tough trip. I mean, with that, and I thought I got to reward the crew. You know, we
Wow.
did have a sound guy, a young guy named John, who went with us. John Tamerlano, just the nicest kid at the time, and then Brian, the photographer. And I thought, you know what? We should go to an SEC football game. I had never been, you know, and they say that is just the ultimate. So Florida was playing Kentucky. I think it was in Gainesville, was it, or was it in Tallahassee? I don't
It
remember.
was, I want to say it was Gainesville.
Gainesville, okay.
Gainesville.
And so they were playing Kentucky. So somehow someone back here at KOIN, a producer, I said what we want to do, got us onto the field. And in Florida, and the field at Tallahassee, there's not much room, like 3 or 4 feet, and the stands are there, and they warn you, you know, but they kind of reluctantly let us on the field. But before that, we went to the tailgating. Well, tailgating in the SEC is something else. Huge buses. Some of them have their portable bathrooms that they're bringing back. The barbecues are incredible, but here's one quick story, Mia. So we go to this one beautiful, I mean, they have buses parked there, big motorhomes, beautiful people, and they welcome us in there. We say we're from Portland, we're fun. They thought that was fascinating that we did this bus trip and we're there. And I'm talking to this man who's cooking and giving us a hamburger. And I said, well, what's your story? Well, I went to law school here. You know, with the Southern accent, I went to law school. And this is where I met my wife. And I go, oh, is your wife here? Well, she's right here. And she's a beautiful lady. And I said, God, it's nice to see you. I said, are you an attorney too? And she goes, the whole place comes to a stop. And she looks at me, she goes, honey, I am a sitting federal judge.
Oh!
And the place, and guess what? No one, we kind of like, okay. And we were kind of like, okay, it's time for you
behavior.
guys to move on. I guess that was kind of an insult. And I was like, ooh.
Gotta
So,
go.
yeah, we learned a little bit on that trip. So that was fun.
Yeah,
and,
that was so. I mean, I'll just say, from seeing you kind of at these smaller spots, these middle of nowhere towns, and then the juxtaposition of that to suddenly seeing you on the field with football players running by you in a stadium filled with 85,000 people.
well, that was sort of a reward to the crew.
Yeah.
But here's what I could never understand. It was September when we were down there, a little bit cloudy. The humidity, you know, you forget about that humidity down south. I was dying, and I thought, how do these football players play in this? So the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, how do these guys play in this? You know, it's cloudy but humid. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, but it was a lot of fun to witness. I think everyone in their lifetime should go to an SEC football game. It's something else, and it was a big reward for the crew before we flew back. You notice we didn't take a bus back from our trip. You know, getting there, that was rough enough.
Yeah.
Just taking that.
Yeah.
So we just, you know, we flew back.
You get
which
to
was-
Tampa, 3,700 miles later, that plane trip was well deserved.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it's such an amazing piece, Jeff. Everybody at home has to watch this. Jeff's journals will start airing mid-September. I'm telling you, you guys, this piece has so much heart. You forget you're watching a news story. I felt more like I was watching an episode, a short movie. The piece has so much heart. I've seen a lot of them in there. It's one of my favorites. So,
Oh, thanks,
Jeff,
Mia.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, Jeff's journal airs mid-September before Jeff will eventually leave us here at KOIN in November, but you have to watch these stories before he goes. They're incredible.
Guess what I'm going to do when I retire?
What? Another bus trip? No.
Greyhound bus trip.
You
No.
really?
I'm done.
He's done. I was like, I don't know if I could even do that. Jeff, thank you so much again.
My pleasure.
And thanks
Thank you,
everyone
Mia.
for watching. KOIN Conversations airs weekdays again at 3:30 right here on KOIN Plus. Thanks again, Jeff.
All right.